Welcome back, everyone, to the Humor Career Insights podcast, your guide to navigating career success in a world that's changing faster than ever. I'm your host, Vache, certified professional career coach, human resources consultant, and founder of Humor, also certified Gallup Strengths coach. Whether you're just starting out, climbing the ladder, or pivoting after years in the workforce, this podcast is here to equip you with the insights and strategies you need to thrive. This season, we're tackling a topic that's on everyone's mind, the future of work, how to stay relevant and thrive. From the rise of AI and automation to the shifting demands of leadership and the skills that will set you apart, we're diving deep into what it takes to not just survive, but thrive. To help us unpack this, I'll be joined by some incredible guests, industry experts, thought leaders, and professionals who are shaping the future of work. Together, we'll explore practical strategies, emerging trends, and actionable advice to help you stay ahead of the curve. So, whether you're looking to future-proof your career, embrace new opportunities, or simply stay inspired, this season is for you. Let's get ready to thrive in the future of work.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by Go My Code. Go My Code is a leading tech education institution dedicated to bridging the digital skills gap across Africa and equipping learners with the skills to thrive in the ever-changing digital world. Want to launch your career in tech or future-proof your skills in a tech-driven world? Go My Code is your go-to partner. Get hands-on training, work on real-world projects, and join a global tech community that supports your growth. No experience, no problem. Our courses are designed to be accessible, practical, and job ready. Start your journey today by calling us on 0208 730 470 or visit us at gomycode.com/ke.
Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Ahmet Acar. Ahmet has helped teams at companies like Google, SAP, and Mercedes-Benz slash time spent on manual tasks, his automated workflows, and reclaim hours to focus on high-impact work. Whether you're drowning in inefficient processes, worried about staying relevant in an AI-augmented world, or simply want to future-proof your career, Ahmet will share actionable strategies to help you work smarter, not harder. From mastering agile experimentation to turning automation into your career ally, this conversation is packed with insights for anyone ready to thrive in the future of work. Ahmet, welcome to Humor Career Insight.
Thanks for having me.
So I like to start off the conversation or the episode with asking my guests to share a little bit about themselves. So here's your opportunity. Imagine that you're at a dinner party and the host is the only one who knows you. How would you like her or him to introduce you?
Sure. So I'm a diplomatic spouse here in Nairobi. And for the past 2 years, I've been babysitting my kids and driving them to school. Before that, I was babysitting executives at Amazon. So almost the same thing. And I worked with a lot of big Amazon Web Services customers. You named a few of them. Helping them transform their organizations, bring in new technologies, but also change their ways of working and the way they create innovative products. And that's sort of what I've done for the past 20 years, not just for Amazon, but a lot of other companies like McKinsey and you named Google as well. So that's where my background is in computer science and product. But I did not start off that boring. I started off studying arts and architecture and somehow landed in computers.
That's an interesting way of putting it. Somehow landed. How did you land in computers?
So I had a professor at university way back when the internet was not a thing yet. Mm-hmm. And he had a research project where he needed some artsy person who had an understanding of computers. Mm. And somehow he picked me out of the class. And we had a great project where we animated paintings in an art installation with projectors. So none of it worked, but it helped me get my next job, and that's how I got into computers and then started studying computer science.
Do you still do art?
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't call it art. I dabble. I paint a bit, but yeah, sure.
Okay. Now, before I move on, because I really want to talk about, how you help those big giants automate workflows, but I am interested to find out, like, is there any like intersection between art and computer science?
Yeah, there is a lot actually, especially if you look into like classical painting. There's a lot that has to do with perspective and geometry. So there's a lot of math involved in that. And on the other side, art has a lot to do with other people, right? You're not just painting something and then putting it in a cave somewhere. You want other people to see it. You want to express yourself. And computer science has a lot to do with other people as well, because the things you're building, it's for other people to use. And most computer scientists, they don't build software for themselves. It's for other customers, it's for other users. So they need to understand what those people need really well. So yeah, there are intersections.
Yeah. And I think those transferable skills, because, there's always that I always find people that would be like, how can I transition from being a social scientist to a tech? That's not possible. But I found it interesting that you actually did it.
Yeah, there's a lot of transferable skills both ways. I think that the challenge is when people sort of try and throw overboard everything they've done, like their whole experience before. And instead, it's better to see, okay, what are the things that I learned the skills in my field? And then which of those are transferable, and then double down on those. Like, it's better to become a techie social scientist than an ex-social scientist who's now in tech.
Yeah, I get that. So let's talk about the automation of, the companies you used to babysit.
Sure.
Yeah. What key trends are you seeing now that are critical or would impact big companies in terms of AI and automation?
So one thing I'm seeing is that a lot of companies, not just tech companies, but traditional companies too, realize how outdated their structures and processes have become. Even if you look at the big tech companies like Amazon or Google, they've been founded in the mid-90s, right? So by now they're about 30 years old. So even those companies have a lot of legacy structures, which worked fine up to 3-4 years ago before COVID. But now with more distributed and remote work and with AI in place, there's too many manual processes in those organizations. Okay. So you can see pretty much across the board, everyone's cutting down on staff, not because they overhired, that's the common narrative, but actually because they're sort of realizing that a lot of the work that's been done, it can be automated or built into systems or replaced by software. Now, no one's going to say that outright, but what is really happening is sort of a drive for efficiency and automation. So that's one of the trends that's appearing.
Okay. So you mentioned legacy process or structure. Can you give me an example of one of those?
Sure. If you look into something like procurement, right? So you have a company that is looking to buy, let's take office paper, because that's a fun one. Like the way it's done is the way it's been done basically 30, 50, even 60 years ago. It's just that instead of filling paper forms and then sending them by snail mail, you send an email or you use an online portal. But at the end of the day, the activity is the same. You're filling out a form. Think about all of the forms that you're filling out when you make a request for any government service, or when you ask for approval in any company. It's all forms. Now, especially inside of companies, most of these would be completely unnecessary. Like, why should you tell the system, hey, we've run out of paper, instead of the system figuring out, okay, we've run out of paper every 6 weeks for the past 3 years. It's been 5 weeks now. So that means in 1 week, this team is going to run out of paper. Let me preempt that and send the paper. Like, you could very easily build prediction engines and automations like this, but no one is doing that. So instead, procurement in enterprise looks like procurement it looked like 50 years ago. It's just different tools, different forms, but it's still the same thing. Especially if you also add in vetting different vendors and then taking different offers and comparing them. Like there's a lot of manual work, which is why any type of enterprise sales takes forever. Like 3 to 6 months is very fast in enterprise sales. It's usually 12 months and above.
Are you seeing any of the big organizations doing that? Are they doing that now using predictive?
So what I'm seeing is there's a story. I don't know if it translates to East Africa, actually, but it's like you come across a woodcutter that's trying to chop down a tree. And then you tell them, hey, you should be sharpening your axe. Like you could be cutting the tree faster. And the guy says, no, I don't have time. I have to cut down the tree. So it's exactly like that in all organizations. What they're doing in AI is focused on somehow putting AI into their products or into their sales, like making sure they can create some sort of differentiator, but they're not using it to actually improve their operations. Like just an example. I mean, I've been working for one of the largest tech giants on the planet, and I had to put together my own PowerPoint files, which took me hours and hours. Even though there were AI tools already 2.5 years ago, where you could just push a button and then it would generate 30 slides. So why the hell am I wasting 8 hours putting together slides that I could do in 5 minutes? The big companies, they're not leveraging this internally, but that's slowly starting to change. So that is one of the trends, but I think most will still hold off for a very long time on using all of this stuff internally.
Okay. What's the biggest misconception leaders have about integrating AI into their operations?
Well, they think they have to train their own systems and leverage their own data and map out all their structures and processes first, which is true to some extent. But there's a lot of small, quick things companies could be doing just to improve current processes without changing a lot about them at the moment. So, for instance, filling out forms, there are tools that you can, like Chrome browser extensions, for instance, that you can use to do the form filling automatically pretty well. And that goes beyond the normal autocomplete you have in your browser. So there's been people in government agencies in the US doing that, cutting down their time for filling out procurement forms from 3 days down to an hour. So that's huge. And it's not changing anything about the forms or the process or anything. It just speeds up the process. So, you could just start with that, because now that person has 2 days that you could, put into meaningful things. So that's I think the biggest misconception is you need all the experts and like you need to do the big things. And I think people are off better if they just start with small things first.
Yeah, the small things are what usually take more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're talking about filling in the forms. I have noticed, though, that a lot of this form filling has gone online. A lot of things now that you apply, government services, if you're applying for things, they do have online application forms. So maybe we're getting there.
Slowly. Yeah.
Slowly. Managers don't have expertise, so the adaptation is slow. Is that a myth or is it fact?
No, that's true to some extent. There's enough managers, general managers, even in tech, who don't have deep technical expertise. And you do need that to have a good understanding of what's going on, especially if you're a decision maker. You should have an understanding of the space. Otherwise, how are you going to make good decisions? That said, it's not always a matter of skill and knowledge. Sometimes it's a matter of, is the organization ready for something politically? Like, can I push something, or should I be pushing this in the first place? And especially if you go into mid-management and above, it's no longer about the actual work. It's about the social dynamics and the politics of it. So like great top executives, mostly they're great politicians. It's just that they're focusing it in the commercial space. So it's not just a matter of tech skills and understanding.
Okay. Something that I've been grappling with, how do you balance the automation with the human element, either in product development or in the actual customer service?
So what do you mean by the human element? What do you mean by that?
The people that are doing it, right? How, whether to get like the automation, whether to get AI to do it or to get a person to do it.
All right. So AI and automation are big words, right? So they mean different things to different people.
Yes.
And there's a lot of nuance to it. Most people don't even set their email filters. Like when you get an email that lands in your inbox, in pretty much every email software, even in like Gmail and those type of services today, you can go into your settings, you can set a filter to say all my newsletters go into a newsletter folder, all my invoices go into this, all my managers' emails go into like top priority, whatever. Like you can create very simple rules very, very easily. You can set filters. I guarantee you 90% of people don't do that. That's a form of automation, right? It's like you get a mail at home. You have like 10 mails and then you have like 3 boxes and you decide, this is what I opened first. Yeah. This is sometime later. This is trash, right? That's just a simple sorting. You have automated filters that do that for you. How great is that? So it's not a big thing. It's going to save you maybe a minute or two, but it's going to save you those minutes every day. And that doesn't take anything away from the human element. It's just that the human element is never trained or taught or instructed to do that. So these little simple automations already can free up a lot of work. You could think of a different one. For instance, you can easily set up an automation in most calendar tools that prevent you from inviting anyone unless there's an agenda, right? So it's like I'm sending out invitations, and that's a big problem in most organizations. You get an invitation, you don't know what it's about, but you're supposed to attend. This wouldn't be possible if you just flipped that little switch, right? Instead, what happens is leadership talks at people to adopt certain behaviors and adopt certain technologies, but that frankly doesn't ever happen. Like even in big tech companies, even with like big brands that I worked with, it's the very simple, stupid things that are not being done. So before you think about how do I use ChatGPT and is there like super intelligence, no, just do the very simple, boring stuff first and then see how much time that opens up.
I am one of the 90%. And I've learned something today. I'm going to go and set those filters. I've seen it there, but I've just never taken the time to do it. And it would definitely save a lot of time because you get a lot of junk mail. Yeah. And you get a lot of newsletters that if you prioritize that, you can work on the important things first and the newsletters whenever.
Yeah, so that's what I would call digital hygiene. Most organizations and most individuals don't have any type of digital hygiene regarding simple automations, but also regarding their own privacy, security, organization of files. Like it's pretty much across the board.
Yeah. And I like, Ahmet, how you say start with the small, simple things, because I'll tell you, the whole jumping into ChatGPT and the whole jumping into DeepSeek, it's a lot, right? And like you're saying, there's a lot. They are big words, AI, automation. But for someone who is like me, why don't I start with how do I automate my current work processes. And yeah, that's starting very slowly, but at the end of it all, you have a big impact. Then you can jump into the bigger things. I like that. So let's talk about leaders and mindset shifts. What mindset shifts do you think leaders need to make to thrive in a new era of work?
So I think they have to take leadership seriously. That might sound a bit trivial or banal, but what I mean by that is you're only a leader because you have followers. Now, in a company, people follow you because they're being paid. They're just there. And you could switch out the leader and like the new guy would be, or the new gal would be followed by the people, right? It doesn't, there's no real leadership there. It's just authority because the structure tells you this is the person who has the title and the higher pay.
Yes.
But real leadership, like I like to say, hey, if you took this leader and their team and you dropped them on a deserted island, like their ship crashes or their plane, and now they're on their own. So no more company. It's just people. Are they still going to follow them, or will they hang the guy from a tree? You know?
Yeah.
In most organizations, I guarantee you that guy will be on the tree in a day or two. So if you really want to, take leadership seriously, you have to take your followers, your employees seriously, which means you can't just flip the switch and switch them out or move them around whenever you feel like it, or whenever you think, oh, this makes strategically sense because some big consultancy told me. And frankly, you're not going to get better people. Like you could throw out everyone, you could triple the salaries and hire a bunch of new people.
Yeah.
You're going to get the same type of people. They'll look different on paper, but people don't just learn AI and processes and all of that stuff on their own and then come ready-made into an organization. That's not how it works. You need to actually take the time to improve your people. That's what a good leader does. And if you look into places like the military, or you go back 1,000 years and look into a tribe, like they're only following the chieftain because he takes care of them, right? And if you don't do that, well, guess what people will do to you? So that, I think, on paper, and if you listen to people, they do that. Oh, yeah, of course, leadership is very important to us. Our employees are super important. But if you look at the practice, like the actual actions, that's not what's going on. So, AI is not going to fix that magically. And throwing people into AI trainings or investing in these tools, it's not going to fix that either. It's a more foundational thing.
I tend to agree with you in terms of like the leadership, because as a career coach, one of the big issues that I hear from people that I coach is their leaders. More often than not, that leader will be hanging from the tree.
Well, to be frank, people also need to learn how to follow. Like it's a two-sided thing. Before you can lead, you need to learn how to follow. And most people suck at that. Like if you're dancing, there's a lead and then there's a follower.
Yes.
If the follower doesn't follow you, you can try and leading as much as you want. Nothing's going to work. So you also need to learn to reflect back to that person to say, hey, this thing you want me to do, I actually didn't understand. Like, it's fine to say that. And most people don't ever say that, or don't ever say, I actually don't know how to do this, So, and depending on the culture, you either get nothing, or you get something when you pressure people, or you get something that's sort of half-assed and not really good. Because most people avoid that conversation, either because it feels uncomfortable or because they feel threatened in their position and in their employment.
That uncomfortableness, I think learning how to be uncomfortable is one thing that is a skill that we need in the future of work. What do you think?
Oh, for sure. It's going to be more and more important because the world is becoming more and more volatile and dynamic. So you need to learn how to change yourselves very, very quickly. And people don't like that. Humans are very adaptive, but we tend to avoid change. So forcing yourself to do that is something of a skill. It needs to be learned. It's like, taking cold showers. The first couple of times are going to suck, and it never stops being bad, but you get used to that notion. When I work with people on these AI tools, what they tell me is, what's the one thing that I should pick? It's like, that's the wrong approach, because in 2 years' time, you might have to learn a different tool or a different approach. So you need to keep learning. And people and organizations tend to avoid that. That's why you still have fax machines in like government offices.
Yeah, change is hard, Ahmed. Change is hard. But I think in conversations that I've had when, I have career coaching, managing change is a skill that most of us really struggle with, that agility and just learning that, in transitions, how do I manage change? So I have 20 years experience. Is it still applicable or it's no longer applicable?
Yeah, of course, that's still applicable. Even if you take areas where AI technologies have already displaced certain skills and workers. So if you look into copywriting, for instance, people who were able to earn up to $10,000, $20,000 a month with that are now struggling to find a $50 or $100 contract.
Yeah.
Because some of these specialized tools are very good at creating that content. But it still needs someone with that experience to look at this as a draft to say, okay, what are the different ideas, the different directions we could take this? Because that's not something an AI tool can do. The word intelligence in artificial intelligence is not akin to human intelligence. All right. So there is no discernment. There's no good decision making there. And that is something you built out of intuition, and you only built intuition out of experience. But you need to learn how to interact with these technologies. You can't just, close yourself off and hope it goes away. People did that with the internet, and that didn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. You're like, okay, the dust will settle. Let me stay in my little comfort zone. And guess what? You think, okay, ChatGPT, this is the new craze, it's going to go away. But no, DeepSeek comes along and you realize this is actually becoming the norm. So let me tell you an example of my sticking my toes into this AI AI world. Yeah, for a while I was like, it's going to go away. Let me stay in my little bubble. And then I tried ChatGPT. I was like, oh, wow, this is actually fascinating. In like 2 minutes, it's doing something for me that I would have taken an hour. But I still have to go into what it gives me. And, within 5 minutes, so within 10, 15 minutes, I'm done. Whereas before it would have taken me an hour. So dipping your toes into something is actually worth the time that you take in doing it. But you said something about, how we tend to ask, what's the one thing I can pick? And is that all bad? Because, okay, I'll give you an example. We always think, what's the low-hanging fruit for me, right? Is that not a way of, dipping your toe? Let me do the low-hanging fruit and then.
So that's definitely a good approach, though. I don't like the term as much, the low-hanging fruit. Instead, I would look at in any given process or thing that I'm doing. So, for instance, when you're now recording this podcast,
yes,
later on this will be edited. So there's some editing work that needs to be done,
yes.
Right? So 25 years ago, I did like radio editing a bit at the university, and I had to edit all the ums and silences and then the click louds that people would do because they forgot to stay away from the microphone, like those little things. That would take a long time to do. Today, you can just upload this audio recording to a tool like Loom, and then you click on, remove all silences, remove all filler words, and then 2 seconds later, it's done, right? So that you could consider a low-hanging fruit. I tend to look at it in terms of what are the things that I'm trying to do today to get to an outcome, and which parts of this thing, what tools am I using for which of these actions? And then are there better tools now? Like instead of using something like, I used Pro Tools 25 years ago. I don't know what's current now, but instead of using whatever tool you're using, you could think of, okay, is there something AI-driven that just makes the guests stuttering go away? Is there something that makes the background noise? Like I can hear some birds and cars. Like if you can hear that in a recording, is there something that can just filter that away automatically without me doing anything? Like I would look in terms of what are the different actions that I do when I try to get to an outcome for something, whether that's a document or recording or a social media post or invoice or whatever that is. What are all the different steps? And most people, they never analyze and break down their own work that way. So what is called process engineering in large organizations. So that's, to me, is how you would approach it. Look at what are things that you don't like to do or take a long time and dismantle those things. Just, you could record yourself with a webcam or take notes as you do the work to see, okay, what am I actually doing? And then look at each of these things and say, is there a different tool? Is there a better way? Is there a faster way or an automation now that I could do without too much effort? That's a good way to approach it.
So breaking down into small bites, breaking down the steps, the process into steps.
Yeah.
Okay. And then learning the tools now. You know, I decided I'm going to try and do my own flyers. There must be an AI tool that I can just give a prompt and out will come a fantastic flyer. Ahmet, it didn't work that way. I was so frustrated using Canva Dream Magic or something that ChatGPT directed me to. And I gave up because I put in the prompt and then out came something that I had to spend time working on again. And I was like, oh, maybe I'm better off just going to Word.
Yeah.
Or I'm better off just outsourcing. So do we need to learn the tools? You can't really just...
So you need to learn the tools, but you also need to, like I said, break down the task. So a flyer is the overall outcome. But if you look at what the sub-goals are, well, you have the layout of the flyer, right? You have the design, the visual style of it. You have text and you have images. So you actually have at least 4 components to this. And you can actually be more granular and say, well, there's not just text, there's things like font size and font style and all of that. Those are all individual tasks. Now, you could go to a designer that is specialized in flyers and tell that person, hey, go build me a flyer. And they're able to do that because they have these different skills. But there is no AI tool, no AI agent or anything like that where you can just say, hey, build me a flyer, and it'll just do that. Instead, you need one to do the graphics, one to do the text, one to do and so on. Like you have to actually dismantle that process. Once you can do that with different tools, now there are ways to then connect these tools and build an automation across them to say, build me a flyer for my talk with Ahmet. And then 5 minutes later, the flyer is done. But you have to build that process and that automation out manually, right? So that involves a pretty high level of skill. The problem with some AI tools today, you mentioned Canva, is that they pretend that you can just enter a prompt and then out comes something. So that's false advertisement. That's not really what's going on. And the problem is a lot of people try that approach and then they get frustrated and then they say, this sucks, this doesn't work. And it's just, some Silicon Valley hype.
Yeah, that was me. I was then like, this AI is just some imaginary thing because I thought it's simple. I'll just say, do this, and it does it for me. It didn't quite work out that way. Okay, Ahmed, let's go back to talking about workflow processes and maybe improving systems. So you've worked for big companies like Google, and now you find yourself here in Africa. What are the processes that you see here? Maybe one or two things that you think could be improved.
So I don't want this to sound like, oh, here are all the improvements you need to make, and what the American companies do or the European companies do is this the standard that you should have. Because there's cultural differences, there's regional differences. This is a different environment. Time works differently here.
Mm-hmm.
And some of these are actually good things, because if you look into some of the American companies that I worked with, especially you look into their US offices, there's a very high stress and level of tension that I don't think is actually necessary. Like, at the end of the day, these guys are building software tools and software environments. Like, it's not like you're an ER surgeon, you know? They need to relax more. So there are some good things, both culturally and in terms of environment here, that you need to recognize and work with. Those are the things you need to leverage. So, for instance, what I found is somehow people can make anything work here. It's like MacGyver engineering. You know, you take chewing gum, some pieces of scrap plastic, some metal, and then the lawnmower works again. I'm like, how the hell did you do that? So this is actually a skill. Like, it's you won't find this type of improvisation in Northern Europe. Like, people will just say, oh, this is not the way to do it, and then they won't do it. So this is an advantage. Like, you need to keep that alive, because that's also what drives entrepreneurship. The other thing that I see is like this, you hear it when you're on safari all the time, you know, Hakuna Matata. It's like, relax, man. Don't worry. The world will keep spinning. There will be more work tomorrow. It's like, it's okay to quit at 4 and then go home. And you won't find a lot of that in a lot of Western organizations. And I don't think that's healthy. If you look at a lot of these cultures, there's a high level of like substance abuse. Like a lot of people are on medication to wind down from that level of stress. And there's not a lot of social cohesion. And you find that here. There's a lot of social support among people. So those are the good. You should keep that and actually double down on that, because those attributes can make great companies. Okay, now the improvements. That's what you wanted to hear, right?
Yes.
So the improvements are, there needs to be a level of quality and professionalism, like at least the ambition to make things work at a high quality with smooth operations. And to do that, you need people to really feel ownership for what they're doing. I see some people have that here, especially if you look like artisans and some people in media. Like, they want to be proud of what they're doing, so they invest a lot of time and effort into it. But for a lot of people, it's like, it's just a job. It's not my work. Like, okay, so you don't get your order when you wanted it. Like, who cares? Nobody is going to say that, because people are super friendly and nice. But that's basically the attitude. It's like, oh, Pole, your power line is cut. It's like, I'll fix it tomorrow. You know? So that attitude needs to go away. Like, and companies like Amazon invest a lot of time and effort first in finding people who have very high ownership. That's why you find a lot of ex-military in Amazon. But then once they bring people, they also keep reinforcing that. Like, if you see something's wrong, go fix it.
Yeah.
Don't just shrug your shoulders and say, it's not my problem. So this is an important foundation to have. I haven't seen that a lot. It's not just an African thing, by the way. You also have that sort of attitude in Southern Europe, and a lot of other places too. But that really drives quality and professionalism. Like, if you take ownership like that. And then in terms of processes, actually having one helps. Like, sounds like a joke, but it's not just, and it's not an African thing, by the way. You find a lot of companies in like Europe and US, they don't have good processes either. A lot of times they'll have something documented though. I haven't seen any company that has that here. And I'm even, I've worked with some financial institutions here. I worked with some IT companies here. Like if I just ask someone, hey, how are you building this thing that you're building? There's no document or anything people can point me to say, oh, it's all documented here. And the reason for that is if that person leaves tomorrow or gets sick or drops dead or whatever it is, well, who is going to continue that work? And typically that work just doesn't continue. So like process awareness and documentation is the other thing that can be improved. If you can basically just do those 2-3 things, you'll already operate at a much higher level.
Those are great insights. And I have seen quite a lot of that. I mean, when I look at the example that you mentioned of how in Africa you can make anything work. In the West, you have to buy something new. If the aircon breaks down and they look at it like, oh, no, just buy a new one. Throw this out and buy a new one. But in Africa, they make it work somehow. So in closing, I want us to look a little bit about the future outlook. In your work with companies like SAP, you've seen teams transition to AI-driven processes. What's one piece of advice you'd give to employees who feel overwhelmed by rapid technological changes? How can this disruption be turned into opportunity?
So if you find ways to leverage these technologies to save time, now you can reinvest that time into your own learning or into socializing in the organization or doing higher quality work. So at the end of the day, all these technologies do is bring you a time advantage. And what that means is if you're an individual contractor, I worked with 30 small business owners and contractors in the past 6 weeks here. And one of them, for instance, was able to take a report that he has to do. It usually takes him about 14 weeks to put that report together. Now he's doing it in 5 days. So that means he can double the amount of work that he's doing. He can double his revenue if he wants to. And that is huge. So if you're an employee and you have access to some of these tools, or even if you just do this privately, you can just improve your productivity and then take that time advantage and do something else with that. So, and if you're not doing it, someone else is who is now getting an advantage over you. And getting started with these tools is really not hard. There's a lot of YouTube tutorials and documentation and stuff out there. What I would just tell people to do is not look away, because there's a window of opportunity of maybe 3 to 5 years into this. And then by then, organizations that have adopted these technologies, they will operate differently, or they will no longer exist because they'll be wiped out by their competitors. And the same will be true for employees too. And it's already happening in certain industries and the niches. If you look closely into the news, it's already happening. So this is not a sci-fi or maybe future thing. It's happening now.
So for individuals, particularly, I've had a lot of humanitarian or international development workers who have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
And they are asking, how can I transition into the private sector? How can I transition from being an aid worker into the private sector? What is one actionable takeaway for them that they can use, like AI? What is one actionable takeaway you can suggest for them?
First, figure out which of your skills are transferable to the private sector. So when you've been in international development and aid work, basically you had to do a lot of impact with little resources the whole time. And that's a skill you can leverage in an organization. People, like management, will reward you if you can make big impact with very little resources by just improvising and being very scrappy. People like that. The second thing you can do is, once you identified which of these skills are transferable, you can use AI tools like ChatGPT or Claude to rewrite and customize your CV and your communication to that private sector. Like you could use AI tools to customize your CV and your cover letter or emails for every single job offer. And it's going to take you minutes instead of hours of doing that manually. So this is something, if you're applying right now, this is something you should be leveraging just to save time. Because I can guarantee you, companies on the private sector, in their human resources, they do that. They're not reading your CV. They're letting a machine read it. They have their ATS, and that will filter you out immediately unless your CV is optimized. So you can play the same game on your side now, right? You can even discover which ATS they're using and how that tool works and optimize for that ATS. It's not really hard to do, but you need to start getting into these technologies.
Yeah. With the caveat though, Ahmed, I recently tried that and there's a lot of hallucination, isn't it? Because I then looked at the CV that DeepSeek had generated, and it had like made up quite a few things, even though, I had given it the relevant information. So I guess also the trick is once you've done that, do check that everything is correct.
That's part of it, but the problem starts before, which is you need to learn how to use these tools in a way that doesn't cost that. It's like if you tell your assistant to put a report together, you don't tell them which format and why and who's the audience and what information to use. Like, you're going to get a report.
Yeah.
It's not going to be very useful. It's the same thing. Like writing a few lines into these machines and then hoping they'll create something for you doesn't work. So you need to learn how they work and what to do in order to get the results that you want. If you do that, you'll get less to very little hallucinations, and there are ways to prevent them completely.
Okay. What training or what something that's readily available for someone who's listening, who wants to do this? What can they use to learn how to use whether it's ChatGPT or DeepSeek to tell it the proper, to give it the right prompts to bring out like a proper CV, proper cover letter?
So for the specific tools, you have their documentation pages, and you have typically on YouTube and social media, you'll find a lot of tips. Mm-hmm. But you should try and get a basic understanding of what the underlying technology is and how that works.
Okay.
One way you could actually do that is go to any of these tools and say, hey, explain to me how you work. And explain to me like I'm 5-year-old or like 12-year-old, and like make it very simple. And then you can ask it questions. Okay, what does large language model actually mean? How does this operate? What's the math behind it? Okay, how does that work? Like you can get these tools to explain you those things in very simple terms. And once you have a basic understanding, it'll help you to use them better.
Okay. Very lastly, I want to talk about jobs and what jobs have you seen in your work or just, looking around the world today? What are the jobs that are going to be lost? And what are the opportunity? Maybe one or two of each. What are the jobs that will come as a result of all this AI and automation?
Well, that's pretty speculative. The truth is, I don't think anybody knows.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because nobody knows in which directions these technologies are going to develop and what will be really possible. Even experts in the AI field, experts in machine learning and deep learning, there are very, wildly different positions out there. Some are saying basically there will be no more jobs. Everything will be automated because we'll also have robots, and then robots will be doing everything, and like these AI tools will be doing everything. So there won't be any work for humans. So that's one extreme position. Another extreme position is this is all BS. It's all hype. None of this actually truly works. People are going to have a bad awakening, and then we'll be back to normal in like a few years. So those are the two extreme positions. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. but nobody can tell you where. If you do want to make like future predictions and base your career on that, I would look into areas where the future is actually pretty clear. Like climate change is a pretty clear thing.
Yes.
The weather is going to be more volatile. There's going to be more storms. So that's a very solid, simple thing. There's great science behind that. Like it doesn't take a genius to figure out what's going to happen there. So that's a better area to look at and make a bet on. If you want to bet on AI, the best thing you can do is just keep an eye on what's going on, and then keep learning the new tools, see where it goes and how you can leverage it for your industry. Because probably 9 out of 10 of your colleagues are not doing that.
9 out of 10, that high?
It's even higher. Like when I left Amazon 2 years ago, out of our team, so we had like 50, 60 people, there was only another person looking into these topics. And this is Amazon Web Services I'm talking about, right? So if you look into something like, I don't know, UN Habitat or some NGO, Save the Children or whatever, just ask your colleagues, how many of you are actually taking an AI course or changing your workflows or like beyond playing with ChatGPT a little bit, like what is it you've actually done? I guarantee you 9 out of 10 haven't done anything.
So you want to be that 1 out of 10?
Yeah, sure. Like you don't have to be the 0.01%. You just have to be like, you don't have to be faster than the lion, just faster than the guy behind you.
I like that, Ahmed.
Right.
When you're running away from a lion, you want to be faster than the guy behind you.
That's all there is to it. Yeah.
Ahmed, thank you. I am very grateful for the time that you have given me today. And I've really learned a lot today. And I am sure my listeners have also learned a lot.
Cool.
To our listeners, stay inspired.
This podcast is proudly sponsored by Go My Code. Go My Code is a leading tech education institution dedicated to bridging the digital skills gap across Africa and equipping learners with the skills to thrive in the ever-changing digital world. Want to launch your career in tech or future-proof your skills in a tech-driven world? Go My Code is your go-to partner. Get hands-on training, work on real-world projects, and join a global tech community that supports your growth. No experience, no problem. Our courses are designed to be accessible, practical, and job ready. Start your journey today by calling us on 0208 730 470 or visit us at gomycode.com/ke.